Hey guys, welcome back to Spilling the Reality on the Hantz Show with Trisha and Kylie. As you can see, Trisha is not here today. We have our friend Lauren filling in. And we're going to go through everything happening in the Big Brother house today, everything you need to know about nominations. So if you're not here for spoilers, then you will need to leave the broadcast, catch us later. If you are here for all the spoilers and you want to follow along with us, drop us some comments, let us know your thoughts about what's going on. Hit us with a thumbs up, everything that you're thinking going on in the house. So, when we left off yesterday, we were talking about the possibility of who Enzo is going to nominate. And as we can guess, it is not a surprise. Dum dum dum, shocker! Enzo decided to nominate Kaysar and Kevin. Lauren, what are your thoughts on these nominations?
We saw it coming. It's not a shocker to anyone. Kaysar has his no shot if he does not win this upcoming POV. Kevin's just being used as a pawn, and it's another predictable week in the Big Brother house, unfortunately.
For sure. They're just going to do the same thing that they've done the previous 3 weeks. That big group is completely dominating and controlling the episodes. So we're going to get more of the same.
I just want to see a shakeup in this house. It is so boring just seeing one entire alliance just dominating everything. I think people need to realize that Kaysar could be an asset to their game, but they're just going with the flow and not making any big moves at this point.
Right. Everybody is about not making waves, doing what the house wants to do. And yesterday we do see, everybody going up and giving Enzo their pitch about, how they would like to work with him. And, Kaysar gives a really good pitch of, I'm the biggest target in here. Like, I have nobody. I'm completely by myself. I'm public enemy number one. Use me for your game. And Enzo's like, oh yeah, man, I'm gonna make decisions for myself. I'm not gonna necessarily do what the house wants, even though we know he's going to nominate Kaysar. But anyways, they kind of have a pretty good conversation, and then as soon as he leaves, Enzo looks at the camera and is like, he hasn't talked game to me in 4 weeks. Like, why? The fact that he's just now coming to me does not make me trust him. And that's a good point. Obviously, whenever you know that the person is only approaching you because you're HOH, it puts you in a bad position.
It is a good point, but at the same time, if Enzo didn't nominate Kaysar's not coming after Enzo. So it could be a benefit for Enzo to keep Kaysar, but he just went with what the house wanted to do, even though he said that he was going to make his own decision. That's not your own decision. You literally did what everyone else was going to do if they were HOH.
Right. And he does keep it pretty close to the vest what he wants to do as the pawn. Everybody's asking him. A lot of people are pushing David. And we talked about it on the show yesterday that we really thought there was a good chance David would be the pawn nominee, and that's probably best case scenario for Kaysar because everybody is so done with David and his terrible gameplay.
Oh, don't get me started. David has no clue what is going on, and he is literally ruining other people's games because he does not even know what to say. I don't think we'll actually ever see David on our screens again personally because his gameplay is the worst.
Yeah, the worst. And it's really funny because we also saw in the feeds where David is talking and he says that he had been contacted by the challenge. And the challenge, I guess maybe David decided to do BB All-Stars as opposed to going on to this next season of the challenge. And I'm thinking the MTV producers are probably like, thank God, because everybody thought this guy had potential and he's a complete snooze fest. Like, he even has a hard time stringing together sentences that make sense. And whenever they show the clips, you can see like how spliced together they are because he stops talking in the middle of a sentence and then he picks up with another idea and it's just random mumblings. And I'm sure he's a super nice guy, but he is terrible television.
He does seem like a nice guy, but it's just watching paint dry. It really is that bad. I had hopes that he could do okay, but just episode after episode, it's worse and worse.
Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, what they're showing you, and I mean, I think they actually took it kind of easy on him in the Thursday episode where he's just like, oh, I think I made a rookie mistake. I'm like, dude, not a rookie mistake. Like, everybody knows that you do not throw the people that you're working with under the bus. Like, how bad this game can you possibly be? You almost have to try to be that bad. But
I know, and he's even calling himself a rookie. Like, if you're playing All-Stars, don't call yourself a rookie. Get in there, prove why you should be part of it. But he has proved absolutely nothing.
Yeah, except that he did not get to be there. Ed asked, will David get to the end? And I think there's a pretty decent chance that we could see David drag all the way to the end because he is the ultimate pawn. But there are some people that are actually a little bit nervous about throwing him up on the block because so many people are pissed at him. They're afraid he's going to get voted out. So I think that's part of why we don't see Enzo put him up. We also know Enzo is working closely with the guys' alliance that isn't. And so David and Enzo do have a little bit of a working relationship there. So I think that's why we see Kevin go up and not David.
I mean, David would be a smart choice to take to the end. He'll get 0 votes.
0 votes. Nobody. I don't even think David would vote for himself. Then we also see so many people, like I said, pushing David. And even though Tyler also brings it up and Cody brings it up, Enzo gets very annoyed that Bailey and Davon are pushing David. And as soon as they leave, Enzo's like, yo, these girls got to start doing something. We're dragging them along. Just really showed himself to be a chauvinist and just thinking he is high and mighty with his comp wins, which, yes, he has won 3 comps. That is pretty impressive. One of them, I don't know how well you can really put that one on the resume when he competed against 4 people, one of which threw it. But still, he has the 3 comp wins to his name. But let's talk about the fact that 9 out of 10 competitions have been won by males.
I know.
Do you think that?
Wild. Yeah. It's insane to me. I want someone else to win these competitions just to shake it up a little bit. Because you're looking at the first 3 evictions have all been women as well.
Yeah. Do you think that it's because the comps have been geared towards men, or is it just kind of a luck of the draw thing?
Well, if you're looking at the first HOH in particular,
yeah,
all the women had to go all the way to the end of the table, and the guys just got to go towards the middle. So I thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was crazy. I feel like for the most part that they've been pretty much anybody could win them. Definitely, I think the ball balancing veto comp that Memphis won, that one definitely seemed geared towards the man because I think it was pretty heavy. Whereas in Survivor, I think they've got something pretty light that they balance that anybody can do. So that one definitely was geared towards the man, but I just think that the producers have to be thinking, oh my gosh, like, how do we turn this around? 3 women gone in a row, 9 out of 10 comps won by a man. I mean, a woman doesn't really have a fighting shot in here.
No, I don't think so, unless they shake up some alliances and make some moves to get some of these big targets out in the guys.
Yeah, I do think that we will see a guy leave this week because obviously Kaysar is public enemy number 1. He is going around, and once again, he's spot on when he's accusing people of things or calling out alliances, and it's just making that side of the house nervous. He has this convo with Danny where he says, I know that you're in the big alliance. And Danny's like, who, me? No, there are no big alliances in this house. And, you may be able to pull something like that over on another player, but Kaysar is way too aware in this game, and he knows that you're lying. But she insists.
Yeah, Kaysar's not an idiot, and just the fact that Danny tried to act all shocked, it's crazy because he literally knows exactly what is going on in the house, and she's trying to deny, but you can't with Kaysar. Kaysar has a good head on his shoulders, and he is very, very intelligent.
Yeah, for sure. We see a meeting of the core four up in the HOH room, and as they're meeting, Kevin and Davon come up, and they're freaking out, trying to figure out how they're going to get out of this circumstance, and they're even saying that they should go hide in the bathroom, but they eventually just decide to let them come in and just visit, like, hey, we were all just hanging out, and it's almost insulting, like, that they don't think anybody else can pick up on this, and then when they do, that they're doing something wrong. I mean, I think Tyler has the right mindset of, oh crap, they're on to me, so I need to get them out. Whereas Cody and Danny and Nicole are like offended almost. Like, how dare you? How dare you be pissed that there's an alliance that you're not a part of? You don't deserve to be like that. And I am over those three.
Well, I mean, those three are making it so obvious that they're together. How are you able? They're not even trying to hide it. Just the fact that they hang out together so much, and then when they're having other people enter into the room, they're like, "Oh, we're just hanging out. We're not really talking game or anything." And come on, cut the crap.
Yeah, they know for sure.
Stupid. If you see a group of four hanging around each other all the time, you know what's up. They're not just friends. There's an alliance happening.
Yeah, for sure. So Trisha asks, is there anything Kaysar can do to save himself this week other than win veto? Kaysar needs to probably bring up, like, I think his best bet is to throw Danny and Nicole under the bus. He really, really needs to bring it to Enzo's attention how close the two girls are, and then also, I mean, if he wants to target Nicole, bringing up how close she is to Ian and how she's defending him and doesn't want him backdoored and stuff. I think that may be the only way, but it's definitely in his interest to win the veto. I think it's an uphill climb any other way.
Yeah, he definitely needs to pitch to get one of those two girls out, and Danny and Nicole. That's his best shot, only because Enzo has already talked about being on to Danny's game. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be a good pitch for him to do that. But if I'm being honest, I don't think he has a chance. He really has to win that veto. Yeah. He has maybe a 10% chance to stay right. And he doesn't win the veto.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the guys would probably be okay a little bit with keeping Kaysar. We do see a few conversations. Like, I think Tyler's okay with him staying. And I said the guys, I was meaning Danny and Nicole. They seem okay with Kaysar staying because they really just wanted to get rid of Janelle. And now Danny and Nicole have more set their eyes on Bay and Day. And so for them, they were probably fine with keeping Kaysar. So I do think there's that slight chance where we could see Kaysar stay, but it's only in the circumstance that somebody comes off and somebody else goes back up. So without Kaysar or Kevin winning the veto and pulling themselves off, I don't think Kaysar stays. Like if Kevin could pull out and win the veto, we've seen Enzo talk about wanting to backdoor Ian. And I don't know even then if that could happen because we know that Nicole and Danny don't want Ian to go. But I think there's a slight chance if that can happen.
Yeah, if Kevin or Kaysar wins and say Ian gets put up, there's a chance Ian could go home for sure. But yeah, if Kevin wins, pulls himself down, and Ian goes up, that gives Kaysar a much, much better chance of staying in the game because people are going to consider, okay, Ian's a winner. He's won before. And I think Kaysar could potentially get the votes on his side because he would have to pitch why he could be an asset to certain people to stay in the game.
And I mean, ultimately, like, I understand being scared of Janelle. Like, she is a super great player. She's gotten to the final three twice, or fourth twice. But Kaysar has gone out pre-jury every single season. And so, you've got two winners left in the house. You've got runners up with Cody and Danny. You've got people that finished in third place. And somehow Kaysar is the one that everyone is so shook by. Like, why? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I would look at the people that made it further in the game as bigger threats, because especially the Big Brother game, the amount of time that you spend in the house and the amount of time you have to be able to strategize, Kaysar hasn't had to go through all that mental fatigue, and all of the rest of the people know what it's like. So right. I don't understand why he's a huge target. I think once they got Janelle out, they should use Kaysar as a number. Kaysar has nobody. He doesn't have anyone in the house. So that's someone that you scoop in and use as a number for you to help you get further in the game. And I don't know why no one is using that to their advantage.
Cam says, why is it that Kaysar knows what is going on and explains it in a way for others to understand, and the others are just good with going out mid-game? And this is the truth. They are so afraid about going against the house. And honestly, like, the BB producers have got to switch something up, because especially on an all-star season, to see everybody being okay with just going with the flow is so frustrating.
It's so boring. I wanted to see one side of the house versus another side of the house. That's what makes a Big Brother season so exciting, because then you're waiting in anticipation who's going to win the HOH competition. It is so much more fun to watch that. Literally, we're just watching a predictable season with this person's going next, and it's just going to go all the way down the line.
Yeah, they've already got it planned out for like the next 3 evictions. Like, okay, Kaysar goes this week, and then we have to split up Bay and Day, and the guys are leaning towards keeping Bailey, the girls are leaning towards keeping Davon, but either way, this duo's got to be split up, and then we're going to go after the other one, and then Kevin and David, and there you go. Yeah, now we're in the back half of the game with no shakeup. So something, gosh, I mean, Kaysar has got to win this veto. He just has to.
Yeah, I want Kaysar to win, because then the house is going to shake up.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on from that, we'll come back to this talk later. They spent a lot of time yesterday talking about the hinky votes, and everybody's accusing everyone else of doing them. And Bailey even comes up to Enzo and says, were you one of the votes? And I'm like, oh my God, Bailey, like, why would, even if you suspect it's Enzo, why are you going to say that to the HOH? Luckily, they have a good relationship, and Enzo kind of laughs it off. But people are starting to, really question where these 2 hinky votes came from. And I think the fact that Enzo did that 2 weeks in a row, the fact that he's HOH this week and won't be voting, I think it'll be interesting if there are no hinky votes, if anybody is like, that must have been Enzo, and whether or not they even care, because in the big scheme of things, it didn't cause as much drama as it probably could have. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, if I was in Enzo's position and someone came up, straight up asked me, and I'm in the HOH spot, that would make me extremely nervous, because I would think in my mind, crap, they're onto my game. Yeah. And that I'm someone that's trying to shake things up so people are questioning other people. But if someone straight up came to me and I'm empowered, I would be a little nervous about that for sure. Yeah. Because even Danny, she's trying to pitch it that Bailey's the one that did one of the hinky votes.
Yeah, and it's funny because, we talked about, we knew that Danny had pitched to Cody about having 2 hinky votes. So when it comes in and we get Danny and Enzo, we just all assume that they must have talked and decided to do this together. But as we're finding out, they came to these decisions separately. So Enzo does not know that the other one is Danny. Danny doesn't know that the other one was Enzo. And we have them having a conversation about who did it. And Danny's like, it's for sure Day and Bay. They were trying to, keep their friend Janelle. And Enzo's like, yo, I don't know.
I mean, it's a strong pitch from Danny, because it was no secret that Bailey and Davon were close with Janelle. So right. It's a good argument on her end to kind of cover herself. But I just think it's funny that Enzo and Danny didn't even talk about it, and they both just ended up doing it.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, gosh. Okay, so let's move into some alliances talk. You get an alliance. You get an alliance. Oh, gosh. So we see Enzo talking to Davon about the Slick Six, and that they're the strongest people in the house. But then, of course, once she leaves the room, Enzo is bashing the girls and saying that they're not pulling their weight and that they have got to start winning some comps because the guys are not going to just drag them to the end. Once again, Enzo.
I know. I mean, that alliance right there wasn't even real from the start.
Right.
It's just an alliance to cover up the other one. But I think everyone in that Slick Six alliance is kind of weary of each other anyway.
Yeah. We do see Bailey really trusting Enzo, and so this is kind of an interesting dynamic that's emerging. And they talk about that they wouldn't mind sitting in the final two with each other. I think ultimately Enzo is going to stick with the guys, which is a terrible decision on his part because, yes, I think he's doing well in competitions right now, but typically the competitions get even more physical the further down you go. And you can't get over the fact that Enzo is a 40-year-old man and Tyler and Cody are younger men, and they're more athletic than Enzo. And so I think if that is Enzo's plan, he's going to see the exact same thing happen to him that happened with Hayden and Lane, and he's going to get dropped at the end. So I think it's a bad move on his part. I think he needs to, really consider this relationship with Bailey and see if it's something that they can do to work together.
The only thing that I think could hurt him, though, if he does try and go with Bailey, is if Davon's still in the picture. I think Bailey will pick Davon all day long, and Davon's going to be picking Bailey. So Enzo's in a tough spot because he's not someone else's number one really right now. He's number 3. So he needs to figure out who his number 1 is.
Yeah, but
and make sure that they are considering him as their number 1.
Right. He doesn't have that. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's setting up just like the brigade. But hearing Enzo talk about like having someone drag you to the end, I'm thinking Hayden and Lane are probably like, hello? Do you remember our season? Because you won one competition and we won all the others to set our group up in such a good position. But Enzo's playing that same, personal game where he's cool with everybody. Everybody likes Enzo. They think he's funny. No one really sees him as a threat. But like you said, he's not anyone's number 1. So you've got to have that relationship at the end to get you that final hurdle. So
yeah, he's essentially broing down again this season. But I will say he's at least winning competitions, so he changed up his game a little bit. So we'll see what happens with Enzo. I think, though, like I said, he's got to find that number 1 because if he doesn't, he's going to be someone that's going to get further in the game, but he's going to get cut.
Yeah, definitely. So one comment that Enzo makes that just pisses me off, and it's going to be interesting to see if the Big Brother Twitter world decides to take off with it. Enzo makes a comment yesterday on the feeds that the veto comp is probably going to be making Eastern Indian food. And we saw basically this same thing happen last season with, I can't remember if it was Jackson or Jack that made the comment to Bella about making rice pudding. And, this is that same context of, I'm not going to go as far as calling it racist, but it's definitely racially insensitive. And I do not understand what goes through people's minds so they think it's okay to say things like this.
It's absolutely absurd and ridiculous. I hate seeing comments like that, and it's insane. It's unnecessary. It should never be said. And I just don't get why people don't fully think anything through.
Right. And so I'm interested to see if there is any backlash on Enzo for making that comment because it was out of line. We'll see. So we'll move on from that. Just leave it there. Let's talk about our favorite subject, Nicole Franzel, the best Big Brother player ever. Oh my gosh, this girl continues to be a hot mess. She is still obsessed about Janelle. She's had multiple conversations in the last 24 hours about Janelle and things that Janelle did in the house. Even though she's not there, she still has this girl completely shook. But what's interesting is Nicole's thoughts on her relationship with Ian. What do you think about it?
And Nicole just thinks that Ian's doing absolutely nothing and that she's driving everything and making sure that she's keeping Ian safe, and Ian's just sitting and chilling and in the background. Mm-hmm. Nicole is driving me nuts.
Yeah, she's the worst. She is a little bit worried that Ian might be targeted this week and backdoored. She knows that Enzo does not trust Ian, but Nicole's like, you know what? Ian better start doing something because I've had to protect him multiple times, and this is not a working relationship if he doesn't do anything for me. And I'm like, girl, you have not done anything for Ian. No one has been after Ian. You have not kept Ian from getting backdoored. So you've not won any comps. What are you thinking? Like, what's wrong with this girl?
She just thinks that she's running things all the time and that she's in everyone's ear about what's going on and thinks that she's in charge. And then she can sit there and say to Ian, well, he hasn't done anything, and I'm the person that's driving our pair, and he's just sitting in the background and not giving me any help.
Yeah, it's insane. I really like Ian's thoughts of laying low. I'm ready to see him start turning it up because, you know, he may not realize it, but the game is quickly getting out of hand towards the other side. So he's got to turn it on.
He definitely has to turn it on, but I think his best strategy was to lay low the first couple of weeks and keep his name out of people's mouths, for sure.
Yeah, I can see himself being in a bad position, possibly this week, but definitely in the next couple weeks if he does not start turning it on and start winning some stuff. It's why are you picking on poor Nicole? Oh gosh. Nicole, and here's the thing is I really did not dislike Nicole until this season, but I don't know if it is because I'm such a Janelle fan, and so you basically have to choose your sides, but everything that this girl does is driving me absolutely bonkers. I have a hard time even watching her on the feeds. If she's not talking game, I cannot just let it be on her. Her voice is driving me crazy. Homegirl's a mess.
Yeah, and we knew that. We called it from the start that she was going to be a mess. I think my biggest problem with Nicole is that she just comes across whiny all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, her and Danny are playing a very similar game, and it's very annoying from both of them. So I'm kind of over them. And speaking of being over them, we are getting Janelle's press tour, and she is slaying these girls, to put it lightly. We're going to play a couple clips for you.
If you could say anything to her right now, what would you say?
Stop crying, be tougher, quit being a bitch. And
So even though Janelle may be out of the house, she's going to get the last word on these girls, and you know, she's letting them know what she thinks about Nicole, and we also get her thoughts on Danny.
If Danielle Donato wins the game, I would feel extremely happy for her. You know, career-wise, she doesn't have a lot going on, and she probably really needs the money.
I mean, she's holding nothing back, coming for these girls outside of the house. Oh, so we're getting some really fun exit press with Janelle. One thing that I'm excited about is the fact that she said that she probably does not want to play Big Brother again, which is sad, unless it is a shortened, like, celebrity Big Brother type season with actual All-Stars. But she said she is 100% on board with wanting to play Survivor. So, hey, Jeff Probst, like, we need to be adding him, letting him know, let's get this girl out to Fiji and see what she can do on the beach, because I am all for it. Do you think she can have better luck in Survivor than her last 2 seasons of Big Brother?
I think she would be great on Survivor. She definitely would have a social game. She comes across likable. I'm not completely sure how she would do with the elements. That's a lot different than being in the Big Brother house. So I would be a little concerned how she would deal with that. But definitely on a social game, I think she would do awesome. And she is very competitive, and I could see her doing well in challenges.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting to see her. She did say that she used to camp when she was younger, so I think that that aspect of it would be easy for her. But she said she likes Big Brother because she likes to have a comfy bed and she likes food to eat. She's not so sure about them out there, flossing their teeth with bamboo. So it would be fun. And I think that it is a great opportunity. Like, Jeff Probst and Survivor needs to scoop her up, and let's see what she can do out there on the beach for sure. Trisha says that she is also asked about Nicole's wedding in her exit press, and I got a picture to show y'all that shows exactly what she said. That she was asked, you watched Nicole Franzel's goodbye message in which she essentially told you not to come to her wedding. What did you make of that? And Janelle says, we had a little bit of beef on The Amazing Race, and that's where all this crap started surfacing from. I wasn't going to go to her wedding anyway. I have a cheer competition that weekend, so no worries. I'll still send them a gift. I don't hate the girl. I just never trusted her in the house. I just never trusted her. And, I mean, that is just rising above, being a completely unbothered queen, and letting this girl know that, yeah, that she's not concerned with her.
Yeah, she's just saying what's on her mind. She's just being honest. Yeah. I mean, I think it's hysterical, all these things she's putting out, because she's being Janelle. That's who she is. And she's not going to hold back, and she's going to say what's on her mind. So I think it's great.
Yeah.
I will say, though, going back to Survivor, I would love to see her. And I mean, you can't do worse than how Beast Mode Cowboy did. So they brought him on. So they should definitely put Janelle on there.
Yeah, we've seen now 2 other Big Brother players, Beast Mode Cowboy and Hayden. Hayden did really well, so he was a winner. Beast Mode Cowboy was, a mid-level jury player, which is how he played Survivor too. Actually, not even making it to jury, but still. I think it would be really interesting. I'd love to see it. Cowboys fan 88 says, what about Cody on the challenge with his brother? I do think that MTV had talked about them doing like a Bloodlines type season together, so I think it's a possibility. We'll see what happens. I like Cody probably more than Paulie. Paulie's really off-putting, but he's really good television, and Cody is kind of boring. So
I would love to see them though in a Bloodlines season, only because I want to see that dynamic, how it would work, because they're completely different people. Right. So I think it could be really interesting if they had to be paired up with each other.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that's going to bring us to our tweet of the day. Tweet. Let me get this pulled up. Y'all can notice that usually Trisha is the one that runs all of this, so you'll have to bear with me for just a second while I get this pulled up. All right, the tweet of the day is going to go out to Kaysar, or whoever is running Kaysar's Twitter, because he's just speaking the truth. At Kaysar Rita, worst week ever. Hashtag BB22. And womp womp. Like, if we lose Janelle and Kaysar in the same week, this is just going to be the worst. Seeing them on the block 2 weeks in a row is awful enough. So, just good thoughts going out to the universe for Kaysar today in the veto comp.
It's just not a good situation. I mean, the tweet says it all. I think that's how a lot of people are feeling. Because if he goes out right after Janelle, it's demoralizing to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I wonder how Cody feels about Cara. Oh, what a mess that whole family is. Khalil asks, will Ian be backdoored? We did talk about this earlier. There's definitely a possibility of it, depending on what happens with the veto. So we'll see. We'll have that update for y'all tomorrow. We do want to bring up that on Monday, we will have a special guest on the episode with us. and we will have Jessica Malagos from BB21. So make sure that you tune in with us Monday to see everything that's going on with Jessica, what her thoughts are on the season, who she thinks is doing well. We'll get her thoughts on David and if she thinks there's anything he can do to turn it around. Like, is he really this bad? Is he playing it up? So we'll get an idea of her thoughts. So be sure to check that out. We also have some other house guests lined up for y'all that we're excited about, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves just in case something falls through. But we got some fun, interesting people coming up. We got about 4 or 5 people lined up for the season. So keep tuning in with us and make sure you go back and like the video, drop us a comment, leave us with your feedback, thoughts on the show, thoughts on the episodes, and everything happening on the live feeds. And we will be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thanks, Lauren, for joining me. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.
Thanks for having me.